I'm Audia Boyles, the Executive Director of the Alice Paul House, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending our groundbreaking today. I must say that the weather is a reflection of the journey of our survivors and the path that they embark on as they find advocacy, empowerment, and support with Alice Paul House. Their journey begins with gray skies that lead them to bright, warm, sunny days. After 38 years of providing core services to the survivors of Indiana County, today marks the beginning of the next chapter in our history. This project would not come to fruition without the commitment of these individuals sitting on the stage with me. It is with a heartfelt appreciation and immense gratitude that I say thank you to all of you. I would also like to take a minute to acknowledge and give thanks to others who have supported this 3-year journey to erect a new facility. My special thanks to Diamond Drug, Don Huey, Renda Broadcasting, Sheriff Robert Fyock and his department, Pennsylvania State Police Indiana Barracks, Indiana County EMS, Citizens Ambulance, for all their support in preparing for this event. I would also like to thank Byron Stauffer, Luann Zach, Dave Morrow, and the Indiana County Planning Office, our county officials and leadership, Stifler and McGraw Architectural Firm, Capital Campaign donors, partner organizations, community members, my staff, my family, Alice Paul House Board of Directors, and our survivors for their never-ending support of the work that Alice Paul House provides. Please accept my apologies if I have failed to mention anyone. It's been a flurry of activity. I will now turn the program over to State Representative Jim Struzzi. Thank you.
Thank you, Audia. Good morning, everyone. I just have to say that I am extremely humbled and honored to be here today, to be asked to represent this fine cast behind me here as the MC. I take that very seriously. You know, we're here today for a very great reason, a great cause. But I have to tell you, whenever I first became chamber president 6 years ago, obviously before becoming state representative, I had heard about the Alice Paul House, and I thought, well, is it some sort of a museum? You know, because I didn't know. And I think a lot of people didn't know until we learned about what the Alice Paul House needed and the great services that they provide. And I have to thank Audia and everyone who works at the Alice Paul House for everything that you do. I believe that it's fundamental, the services you provide. If we cannot provide for those in need, then why are we here? But as chamber president, you know, I had the opportunity, and Secretary Davin was here, who's going to speak later. A few years ago, we did a tour of the Alice Paul House, and it was quite alarming. I mean, if you see the building behind us now, that tarp's there because the roof is collapsing, right? And we walked through there. There were wires hanging from the ceiling, and the need was clearly evident. And so I started to get the chamber involved at that point. We had some events, some after hours, some fundraisers. I met with Ruth Reisman, who I believe at that time, Ruth is in the back. Hi, Ruth. Was starting the capital campaign to raise the money to do this. And you know, Indiana County people are very unique. And I think that's why we're all here. That's why I'm here, because we find a way to get things done. You know, and I knew, and we all knew, I think, from the beginning, we were going to find a way to get here today. And it took all of us as a community to come together to do that. And we've done it before, and we'll do it again. You know, it took Senator White and Representative Reed and all of us, and Byron, and the planning department, the commissioners, and everybody to come together to make this happen. So, again, I'm extremely honored, extremely proud to be here today to serve as the MC. We have a lot of speakers, but again, thank you all for being here as well, and for all the support that you've given to the Alice Paul House to make today possible. Okay, so I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Second Lady of the Commonwealth, Giselle Fetterman. Giselle?
Thank you so much. So honored to be here on behalf of the governor and the lieutenant governor. I'm joined by Julie Strickland-Gladier from the lieutenant governor's office. But mostly, I'm so grateful to everyone who has invested in this and in this work. We know what happens when women don't have places like this to go to. They stay. And they don't, and their children stay, and that's sometimes will cost them their lives, but it will cost them their dignity, it will cost them their pride, and to have a place that they can come and be safe and find a way out. It is because of the work of all of you. So I'm really honored to be here, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next stage of this. And thank you for all the years of work that you've done to support women and families in Indiana County. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle. I would also like to recognize that State Representative Joe Petrarca has joined us today as well. Thank you, Joe. Our next speaker is the Secretary of Community and Economic Development, Secretary Dennis Davin. As I mentioned, Secretary Davin has been along with us throughout this entire journey as well. When he came out with his staff a few years ago and some others, and we saw firsthand what needed to be done to help the Alice Paul House. So, Secretary Davin, thank you for being here. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, and it is a pleasure to be here on behalf of Governor Tom Wolf. It's also really difficult to follow the second lady. This is, I think, the second or third time I've been in a position to do that. She's pretty dynamite. She does a great job, and we really appreciate having the opportunity to do some events with her. But a couple things I want to say, and it was exactly 4 years ago today in April that our deputy director from our office, Allie Doyle, right there. Allie, put your hand up. That came to here to Indiana to look at the Alice Paul House. And she saw a number of issues with water pouring, and I think that's probably the theme that we're going to hear over and over again: water pouring, more water inside the house than the rain falling outside of the house. But saw the facility with that. Saw also the fact that there were 64 security issues identified by the Pennsylvania State Police, and that simply just couldn't happen. So she came back to our office, worked with Jonna Pro. Jonna, put your hand up. John is our director of Southwestern Pennsylvania, and said simply, there's got to be a way that we can help, and so we did that. And I found myself out here at the request of Senator White and at the time Majority Leader Reed, which was great. And we did a tour. I did a tour, and again, fallen wires. There was rain. It was rainy that day. There was more rain inside than outside, and a number of the security issues was really. Stark or drastic, I think, in our minds, that had to be taken care of. So we looked at that, and I think we all agreed at that time that there's something that we all have to do to really make this thing right and really provide the support that the Alice Paul House needed over the next few months and years. It was really all about the people, and it's about the program in our mind that for more than 3 decades has worked to make the dream that is Pennsylvania a reality for our most vulnerable citizens, especially women and children in danger. So this project, in our mind, truly represents the best that we have to offer. It demonstrates that government can accomplish great things when local, county, state, and federal leaders all come together. So through our Neighborhood Assistance Program and a partnership with UPMC, we were able to provide $600,000 in early funding needed to support soft costs on the project, such as architect and engineering costs that are really, in a lot of cases, so hard, and the funding is really hard to come up with, especially for nonprofits. Our federal grants team worked really closely with the county and the commissioners to make sure that community development block grant funds also could be used for this project. And ultimately, this project was awarded $750,000 in CDBG funds that were competitive throughout the state. So that was a great thing for us. And finally, we secured a commitment from Governor Wolf for $1.75 million in redevelopment assistance capital funding, which is really a testament to these two folks over here that you're going to hear from a little bit later, working with the governor. That represents an investment from the state of over $3 million towards the development of the new Alice Paul House. So we're the Department of Community and Economic Development, and the name in and of itself really recognizes that you have to have strong community opportunities and strong business opportunities working in conjunction together. And that's what really happened here. And it happens with the Neighborhood Assistance Program initially through UPMC and some of our great partners to be able to invest in projects like this. But I really want to say thank you to Senator White, and I know Senator White's retired now, and he's been a great partner of ours, I can tell you, at DCED, and we really feel that we were fortunate to be able to work with you for the 4+ years that we were able to do that, and to Dave Reed and to their staffs and all the representatives mentioned here. And also to Audie Boyles and her team, and to everybody. And it's really a great thing and a great event that we're fortunate to be here with. So I do have a quote from Alice Paul. This is not my doing. It was somebody who wrote this, somebody who's standing over there. But I think it's a very appropriate quote, and it's to me it kind of puts everything in place. And to quote Alice Paul, "When each of us puts in one little stone, you get a great mosaic at the end," and this great mosaic is going to be this wonderful facility. So congratulations. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thank you for everything that everybody's done to get to this point. Thank you.
Our next speaker probably doesn't need any introduction, but Dawn, thank you for all you've done for Indiana County. I don't think you get enough credit for all you did over the years, but I'm truly honored to introduce you. So, our senator, former Senator Dawn White. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Second Lady, great to see you. Saw you at the swearing in of your husband, and I wish him every good wish going forward. I really love retirement. Whoop. Today is one of the first times I've had to put on a tie in about 7 weeks. And I had to sort of stand in the mirror to do it. Couldn't do it on my own, so it's not a habit I want to get into anymore. Todd Bryce told me I should buy those clip-ons. Look, this is a special day for a lot of reasons, and normally I don't write down remarks. But this was so important, so many people, I felt I had to. The retirement came at the right time. I did not fulfill my fifth and last term, and I caught myself pawning more and more off to my Chief of Staff, Joe Pittman, and it was time. I think we had a good run, but it was time. As your senator for the last 18 years, from day one, I promised not to get down there and be this well-spoken orator or sit down there to write and craft laws. I looked at my job, and I've said this many times, as a maitre d', a glorified maitre d', taking the priorities of my county commissioners, my Chamber of Commerce, my planning people, my development folks, to Harrisburg, and attempt in each and every case to fulfill the needs that they displayed. I like to think that I was pretty successful in that pursuit. This initiative was totally different for me. It was truly a grassroots initiative. Indiana, in my opinion, going back 38 years, has always been way ahead of the game when it came to addressing domestic abuse and what it does to our core family unit. The initial Alice Paul Center was one of the very first in this entire region. And those founding citizens deserve our sincere thanks and appreciation and gratitude. I remember Lenore Patton. Many of you might remember her. I think she was among those people, Christine Toretti, and I'm sorry I don't remember the rest of the initial board, but they had a vision. And what we have today is because of that vision. Under my own roof, my wife was always a strong advocate and one of the original board members, and helped me to understand its significance. In other words, if I didn't understand it, I think I would have been a resident down there. So while the mission was served, and gloriously over the last 38 years, it became quite aware to the board and others, including our secretary who made that visit on that rainy day, quite aware to the board that the current facility was not filling its need. That's when a very persuasive and local board member arranged for me to visit once again the facility. I was astounded and, to be honest, repulsed by what I saw of the condition of the building. My friend, Millie Galinsky, dramatically, to me, displayed the inefficiencies and what needed done. Prior to Millie's advocacy, I felt, to tell you the truth, that this was a problem that we were going to have to settle locally with local funding, because I was not aware of any state infrastructure funding for domestic abuse shelters. That's when my partner in Harrisburg stepped up. Dave Reed found a niche that I was not aware of, and he knew that we needed to make this happen. I'll say, and Dave might disagree, but for the first 10 or 12 years that we served together, I was the guy in a position to bring home funding for a majority of the county projects. I was one of only 50 guys versus one of 203, and I had always had the ear of my leadership. But then David worked his way into a leadership position, and the burden shifted and was now shared. In fact, the scales tipped more towards David and what he was able to do, what he was able to bring home. In particular, this project. David negotiated this funding directly with Governor Wolf and our DCED secretary himself. He's the hero of this project, and I'm proud, so proud, that he was able to bring it home. It's a shame that domestic abuse is so much part of our society. But as long as it's there to deal with, I'm very proud that this county has always stood tall in addressing that issue and protecting the victims at every turn. I thank you, and God bless this project.
Thank you, Senator White. So it was probably February last year, and I was thinking about running, and I met with Dave, and Dave said, "Oh, it'll be easy. We're gonna have to talk." But seriously, just to echo what Senator White said, you know, I don't think you can fully appreciate the work that Dave did in Harrisburg to help Indiana County until you're there and you can see, you know, what happens in Harrisburg. And I'm seeing it firsthand, just the difference that the majority leader makes, and what Dave did to help Indiana County, this project, the Urban Outfitters project, and many other things over his career. So I truly appreciate what Dave has done as a state representative, and I'm honored to introduce Dave as our next speaker and also to call him a friend. So.
Well, Jim, if it makes you feel any better, everybody told me banking would be easy too. And that I wouldn't have to speak in public, and there would be a lot of golf involved. And I've yet to play golf, and this is like the 8th time I've spoken in public since I became a banker. So it's not always quite as rosy on the other side as it was described beforehand. It's a great honor to be here today. and I'm just so thrilled to be invited to be here with my former colleague, Senator White, and I think the Senator did give an accurate description of our first 8 to 10 years together. He brought home a lot of the funding, I did a lot of the policy work, and then those last couple of years I was able to help repay the favor for a lot of projects here in Indiana County and across the entire western portion of the state. And a lot of folks don't remember, but before I got elected, I was actually the downtown director in Blairsville Borough. I made $198 a week, not that I was counting, to pay for my apartment, my car loan, and to feed the dog I had. One of my primary responsibilities in that job was to help Blairsville Borough begin the application project for the Main Street program. And I got everything prepared, everything ready to be submitted, and we submitted it right before the election in 2002. And then I had the distinct honor afterwards of being on the flip side of that equation as an elected representative to help gain the approval for Blairsville Borough to enter into the Main Street program to help revitalize part of the borough and the facades and the streets along with it. This ending for me with the Alice Paul House is the exact opposite. I had the distinct honor of working with the governor, working with Senator White, Secretary Davin, to help acquire the $1.75 million RCAP and the other $750,000 in state funds coming through to help make this project a reality. And then on the flip side, I got to join an organization, First Commonwealth, that was a major contributor, contributing $50,000 to the project from a private sector investment, and then sit in on the loan committee where we actually approved a joint venture with S&T Bank to help fund the bridge construction loan before the state dollars come in to make this construction actually possible. And I will say there are a number of people that deserve an awful lot of credit in getting this project done. Adia and her team and her board did an amazing job of raising money locally to help get the local elected officials and the state's attention that this project could actually come to fruition. I also want to make sure to point out, and I know they're here, but everybody's kind of under tense now, so they weren't where they were when I was first looking out, but Allie and Jonna were amazing advocates for this project. Allie was convinced from the very beginning that we could access the tax credit programs to help fill in the gap, and Jonna just wouldn't let it go. And I'd known Jonna since our time. I was on the Appropriations Committee and she was a Democratic staffer, so we got to know each other back in those days, probably about 10, 12 years ago. And she just kept kind of poking and said, hey, look here, look there, and you're gonna find the right route to go down. You know, for me, when I knew I was leaving, and I'm so glad to have turned it over to somebody who's doing so well at the beginning with Jim Struzzi, and to partner with somebody like Joe Petracca, who's got the southern portion of Indiana County. But I knew there were 3 things I wanted to complete before I left, and one was to get the funding for Yellow Creek State Park to finally rehab the beach area, and that project's midway through construction. 2 was to finally sign on a dotted line with Urban Outfitters after 6 years of negotiations. And this was the last thing that I wanted to see completed. And it actually worked out in that order. I could not be more proud to be part of this project. And I will say most of the time when we do these groundbreakings as elected officials, they're great celebrations. And I have a tough time thinking of today as a celebration, because we know the folks who are going to use this facility, they're not at a great part or a great time in their lives. They're struggling. They've got challenges and difficulties that most of us, God willing, will never understand. But we also know that when they come into the facility, and then when they exit that facility, we're going to change their lives, and it's going to be for the better. So today's more of a recognition that we are blessed to live in a community that works together, a government that can function when it puts its mind to it. And when you combine those 2 together, good things can happen and we can change lives. And today's just the beginning of changing the lives for those who desperately need it the most in our communities. And I am so proud to have been a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Our next speaker is the CFO, Senior Vice President, Business Development, and Board Treasurer for UPMC's Insurance Services Division, Scott Lammy.
Thank you, Representative Struzzi. I have to say it's a great honor to be here on this stage with these great, hardworking Pennsylvania folks. And this is a great bipartisan effort that we've pursued here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And I just listening to the speakers preceding me, Senator White, congratulations on your extraordinary career, and thanks for everything you've done for Indiana County and for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And Representative Reed, it hasn't gone unnoticed, all of your groundbreaking work in helping us to end poverty in Pennsylvania, and that groundbreaking report that you commissioned years ago is something that we all need to continue to focus on extensively. It's just this is an example of a project that is just to put it into context. I think after Allie came up here 4 years ago, Allie and Jonna, the first call they made, at least from the corporate side, was to call me and ask if UPMC could help engage with this project. And so Allie said, oh, you have to come up here. So some colleagues and I came up here and visited the project. And I will say that two things caught our attention. One is the extraordinary work that the Alice Paul House does with Audie and the team, and with limited resources, but just the extraordinary, the dedication and the hard work and the results and the impact that you've had. And Senator White, you were right on when you were talking about the groundbreaking work that the Alice Paul House has done from the beginning in serving this region. So it was extraordinary, but then also at the same time we saw the very kind of fairly deplorable condition of the physical property and the security and the other issues. And so it didn't take much for Allie and Jonna to convince us that we needed to really support this project and get behind it. So we were just honored to be a small part of this great project. And I'd like to thank our second lady, Giselle. Actually, for those of us in southwestern Pennsylvania, and particularly in Braddock, you're our first lady. So it's always great to be with you. And Julie, it's always great to see you. And I work closely with Bill Strickland, Julie's father, who's doing great work to end poverty throughout our region and actually globally. So it's always great to be with you folks, and Audie and your team. It's great to be able to be with you. I would like to make a comment about the Department of Community and Economic Development and Secretary Davin. Thanks for all of the work that we've done collectively at the legislative level to double the tax credit programs, because I think this is a prime example of how we can engage the private sector in partnership with the Department of Community and Economic Development and all of our community partners throughout the Commonwealth to come together to really pursue exciting, worthwhile projects. So I can't imagine a better, more productive use of resources in the tax credit program than the Alice Paul House project. So thanks for your great work, and again, it's an honor to be with you all today. And best wishes. I look forward to coming back to the ribbon cutting ceremony in a few years. So thank you all for everything you're doing for us collectively and all the hardworking bipartisan support that we have here throughout Pennsylvania. So thank you again, and good luck to all of the folks that are supporting this project, and we look forward to seeing this all come to fruition. So thank you again.
Thank you, Scott. Our next speaker is the chairman of the Indiana County Commissioners, Mike Baker. I think we've been blessed as well to have a great team of county commissioners for the past several years. And as you all know, both Mike and Commissioner Ruddick will be, I guess, retiring after this year, or at least stepping down. So, but you will all be missed as well. Commissioner Baker.
Good morning. I know it's raining. So I just want to say thank you. I'm looking out over the crowd here, and I see an awful lot of our elected officials and department heads and so on that have come out, and just wanted to thank you for coming out, for your support. I had a great morning before I came over here, because when I came in this morning on my desk, I had an opportunity to sign 4 construction contracts to begin this project. So we can get the ball rolling. We've got a general contractor, an electrical contractor, a plumbing contractor, and an HVAC contractor, and we signed them all off this morning. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to say to you today, but I recalled last night that back in October, Audia called me and she said, I need you to do me a favor. She said, could you write a letter of support to Secretary Davin for the Alice Paul House project? And I said, boy, I'd be happy to do that. And I thought, maybe the words that I want to say about Alice Paul House today are the words that I said to the Secretary in that letter. So I'll be brief because I know it's raining, but I just want to share a few sentences from that letter. The Alice Paul House's involvement goes far beyond its response to victims of crime and violence and extends deliberately into education, awareness, and prevention. All of the 7 Indiana County school districts have opened their doors to allow Alice Paul House personnel to provide community awareness and prevention education to their students. The staff is also actively involved in training volunteers for crisis intervention for immediate assistance anytime the need arises anywhere in the community. County residents in need of assistance from the Alice Paul House find not only dedicated and capable people ready to help, but a full range of available services to meet those needs. In addition to shelter, prevention, education, and counseling service, Alice Paul House is daily engaged in the provision of medical and legal services, including assistance and advocacy to those whose personal safety may only be reasonably ensured through the protection from abuse orders made by the county courts. The staff also works very closely with the courts and other agencies in securing compensation for those who have experienced violence or other forms of personal abuse. Over the years, the Alice Paul House has served thousands of county residents and families in all of these ways and many more. And the new Alice Paul House helps to ensure that the next generation of Indiana County residents will always be able to find shelter, advocacy, and assistance at critical times in their lives. Mr. Secretary, thank you for your consideration of that letter and for your support and for the support of everyone here. Audia, congratulations. I'm so looking forward to signing. I know that we approved a couple of more contracts at our meeting on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to putting ink to paper for those too. So let's get it going. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Our next speaker is County Commissioner Rod Ruddock. Rod?
Why is it that we get the canopy and you don't? It's a privilege for me to be here, and I want to welcome the Second Lady here to Indiana County. Thank you for taking time to enjoy, I think, the spirit of Indiana County, and I think you've heard that already. I also want to welcome our legislative team, past and present, for all that you have done. Believe me, and my comments might reflect a little bit of that as we move forward. Secretary Davin, thanks for taking the time to be here today, and I will make comment about what you have done. Our township supervisors are here too. I saw them, and we're standing on their property, so thanks for allowing to throw out the welcome mat here today. And to the guests and citizens of Indiana County, thanks for being here. The groundbreaking here today, it does visibly affirm what our community commitment to growth is. Not long ago, you might remember, not too distant from this current location, from an economic standpoint, we broke ground for an economic investment, urban fulfillment. And soon, within the next 6 or 7 months, we will break ground for 2 additional projects that are specific to our educational and workforce development goals for Indiana County. And so today, we get a chance to visibly demonstrate our full commitment to attend to what we consider to be and has been an ongoing community need in addressing domestic violence. My wife at one time was, I think, a counselor that worked for domestic relations at one time. And I remember vividly the opportunity we had to discuss, and I think, Senator White, you mentioned this in your remarks, but the community actually began to rally around the need for a domestic shelter in 1979. And the 2 individuals in Indiana County that really were the springboard for that, one was mentioned, Lenore Patton, and the other one was Mary Banks. And now we have leadership that continues, a very active Alice Paul House Board and Executive Director Audia Boyle. And every time I see Millie Galinsky, It's and whether it's in one of the shopping centers or locations in Indiana, I've never seen anyone smile so quickly, come up and give a hug about thanks for what Indiana County is doing for domestic relations, and then she goes into tears. And so that speaks from the heart of why Indiana County is different than any other county in the state of Pennsylvania, because we do everything from the heart. Several years ago, this project really got kicked off, and let me tell you a little bit about that. We were meeting with Byron Stauffer and our planning and development director and his team of support. And two of them are standing over here, Dave Morrow and Luann Zach. And we meet on an annual basis. And the purpose of that meeting is to sit down and talk about what are our community needs and how can we best apply the limited dollars that are available in community development and block grant dollars. That's really the key piece. Among a host of options we discussed a number of years ago, Luann Zach and her team said, we need to address the condition of the Alice Paul House and Shelter. That was our discussion. We had just come off, and you might know and remember this, many of you, that we had a very successful plan utilizing competitive CDBG dollars for our Veterans Community Garden Center that was built here in Indiana County, that also is now a homeless shelter for veterans. So we, at that time, decided to follow the same script and use our grant allocation to leverage additional dollars to move the Alice Paul House project forward. We met as quickly as possible with Senator White and Representative Dave Reed to seek additional RCAP financial support. And within moments, and I would say bingo, off we went. And I have to tell you, the support from Governor Wolf's team, Secretary Davin, have been remarkable. Let us now say thanks for all that we're doing. It's raining, and I know better to read the audience. We are Indiana County proud, and we are moving this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ruddick. I'd like to introduce now County Commissioner Shireen Hess. Shireen.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is indeed a special day. It represents a new era for an organization that has a mission to take care of people. Everywhere I go, I brag about how we in Western Pennsylvania take care of each other. We might have a funny accent, we might have a strange obsession with professional sports, but we know how to be there for those in need. So I want to thank the Alice Paul House staff, the board. The board is the heart of any organization, all the elected and formerly elected officials, all of you for being here and for doing your part. We don't get these things done without the support of the community. I've played a small role in this, but I'm very honored and very proud to have played that role. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Shireen. Our next speaker is the Executive Director of the Indiana County Office of Planning and Development, Byron Stauffer. And if you know Byron, I was fortunate enough to work with Byron as Chamber President. Nothing happens in Indiana County without Byron's finger on it. So, Byron, thanks, buddy.
Thank you, sir. I will be, thank you very much, and welcome. I will be brief, but I'm really here representing a couple different factions. Commissioner Ruddick said it well. Luann Zach and Dave Morrow, thank you for your leadership on this project. It's been tremendous, working in the trenches, along with people that worked for Don and Dave, Joe Pittman, John Longwell, working with Audia and the board, Sandy Cepas and Ruth Rieseman in the very early days of the fundraising, reaching out to Stifler McGraw and saying, hey, I need a favor, can you do some design work, and you can't get paid. So thank you, Brian and Kevin, thank you from Stifler McGraw. But the community really stepped up here, and so I thank you for that. But I also stand here today as the eldest son of a survivor. I had a great childhood growing up, but every family does go through something at some point. My situation was there was some issues between my mom and my dad. My mom was one of the bravest women that I ever knew. She's no longer with us, but this project for me is personal, and we're going to put it in the capable hands of the Alice Paul House Board and Audia Boyles and her team and the tireless volunteers. And thank you to the Indiana County community, UPMC, the Secretary, the Governor, certainly Senator White and Dave Reed for their leadership. And but thank you very much, and we look forward to building a great building that will be a safe haven and a beacon for hope for many years to come. So thank you.
Thank you, Byron. Christine Toretti, Alice Paul House Board Member Emeritus, could not be here this afternoon, but she is represented by her son, Matt. Matt?
I'll keep it short and sweet because the rain's really picking up here, but I'm honored to be here today on behalf of my family and my mother, Christine. The Alice Paul House is something very important to her. She's been supporting it for the past 35 plus years. And I just want to thank Millie and Audia for their tremendous leadership. And we were very pleased to be able to provide them office space for the past 3 years. And we will continue to do whatever we need to do to help them going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Our next speaker is the president of the Indiana County Chamber of Commerce, Mark Hilliard. Mark is new. I guess he hasn't got the whole Chamber of Commerce weather down yet, right? Mark, would you like to say a few words?
Thanks. I was actually told that the Chamber was responsible for the weather today, so sorry. I'll keep this brief because it's very difficult to follow everybody else who's already made their comments, but the Alice Paul House is an incredible asset to Indiana County, and the awareness and the services that are provided by the hardworking staff are amazing, especially dealing with very difficult situations. It's one of the reasons I think Indiana County is such a unique community, and it's one of the things I think that makes us such a special place to live. But an amazing organization needs an amazing home. And I thank everybody behind me for a true team effort led by Representative Reed and Senator White in helping to recognize the challenges that we're facing by the Alice Paul House and addressing those challenges. So we're very proud to be a partner with the Alice Paul House at the Chamber, and we're excited here to take the next step in welcoming them to their new home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And last but certainly not least is the Alice Paul House Board President. You've heard her name mentioned often, Millie Galinsky. Millie.
I want to repeat all the thanks and extend a special thanks to Luann Williams for being here, one of our past executive directors, and also to my board of directors. Thank you so much for helping me stand up here today. I know you've always been behind me. Yesterday, Byron Stauffer put me in a timeout because I was relentless in questioning, and I'm afraid if I don't sit down, I'm going to be in another timeout. My hope and the hope of the board of directors and Audia and all of us is that in the coming years, anybody who works on this facility stays safe without harm. We thank you all for coming, especially those who traveled, and we wish you safe travels on your return journey. I think we're going to do some shoveling now. How about it?
We are going to get the shovels and we're going to do the ceremonial groundbreaking, but I would like to once again, and I know it's pouring, but I have to say, and they've been mentioned many times today, Jonna, Allie, couldn't have done it without you, and thank all of you who have supported us the whole way through this process. Just keep your eyes open. We have great things coming.